If you're completing the Creative Memories Vintage Chic project recipe, you can follow along with this tutorial. I was honored to create this fast and fun layout for Creative Memories using this gorgeous collection. Let's get started. Here are the items you'll need to create this project recipe. First, you'll need the Vintage Chic paper pack and embellishment pack. I'm using these 3 sheets that are in the sample. This brown, this purple, and this with the orange on one side and this beautiful blue design on the other. We'll be using both sides of this one. Plus, you'll need 1 sheet of pumpkin cardstock. And for tools, you'll of course need your 12-inch trimmer, your tape runner, and definitely the repositionable tape runner. And we're going to be using the new Elegant Diamond Border Punch. This one's super cool. It's got a very short design, so we're actually going to require 7 punches going across 12 inches. That's a first. Let's get started with the cutting guide. Our first step is to use the Elegant Diamond Border Punch and punch 1 border across the side. And of course, as always, you'll want to start at this little black line. Notice how narrow they are. They're very close together on this punch. You definitely want to start there because this is a very specific looking design, and if we start in the middle, we won't get what we need. So carefully line it up and have the paper coming out right at that left black line and punch. Now, this one's going to give us the little vampire teeth, and that is because it's such a repetitive pattern that tells us where our paper needs to be so that we don't punch something twice or we don't end up with gaps in our punch. So you're actually just going to go to right here the first time, covering just one of those little vampire teeth on the blue pattern. So notice what I'm doing there, and then punching. And that's where we are right now. So this time when you go again on this punch, you're going to cover both little vampire teeth to see exactly where you need to be. All right, that's the 3rd punch. And we're still not halfway because this one punches such a short distance. It requires 7 punches, so we've got 4 more to do. So just as always, if you use these border punches, keep lining it up, looking at your vampire teeth, making sure you're covering up that blue pattern, and you'll finish this up. This is such a pretty border. I like it a lot, and I like the fact that it is so small. It's too big to be a border maker cartridge, but it's small enough to create a beautiful border and not take up a lot of room. There we go. There's one. Let's clean up our mess. Okay, now I advise you in the instructions here that you're going to want to trim off about 1/8 inch because I noticed when I played with this punch, if you put, see how you have the little vampire teeth here? If you put that in there, it actually is a little too short and you're going to be missing the tops of some of these. So it is best on this punch to trim that off. It doesn't even have to be a full 1/8 inch. See there, just that little sliver, just so that you get a nice clean edge to your paper. Now all we're going to do is punch 1 more of these 12-inch borders. Okay, when you're done, you can close this one. Let's put that away. Now we're going to again trim off just under 1/8 inch just to clean up that edge. You don't want to trim too much though because you're going to be using all this cardstock, so we don't want to trim too much, but that's plenty. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to cut these in half at 6 inches. And you can see it cuts right down the middle there. And then cut this in half at 6 inches. So you're going to end up with 4 6-inch little borders. All right, we're going to push those to the side now. And we're going to finish with our cutting guide for the pumpkin cardstock. Next, we're going to cut pieces C and D, and those are 4 inches wide. We're making 2 photo mats here. Turn that on its side and cut that at 6 inches. If we're labeling, and I always encourage you to label because it can get confusing, but this is a pretty simple project recipe. This is piece C and D. Then we're going to cut pieces E and F, and these are more photo mats that are 4.5 inches by 4.5 inch squares, and those are for a 4 inch by 4 inch square photo. So we come over here to 4.5 inches, and this is all we have left over of this cardstock. I'm going to toss that, and then go to 4.5 inches here to cut our square mat, and then cut 1 more of those. Oh, I lied. We had this left over too. I'm going to save this one. And I actually put these in my pod inserts, and inside these I have one of these Power Simple sleeves for all my cardstock scraps. So that one's going in there. I've got one for each of the basic colors. So these are pieces E and F. All right, we'll put these aside over here with our cute little borders out of the way. Now, depending on what papers you are using, because you may be using something different than I am, this one that's, more colorful, we're going to use that for the final piece that we're cutting. So I'm going to put it aside. You want the two pieces that are somewhat similar to be your papers that you're going to cut for cutting guides 2 and 3. They're going to make up your base papers. So if you look at the suggested paper pairings that I gave on this one, basically you'll notice it's about the same pattern, 2 different colors. So I like things that are pretty symmetrical, as you can tell if you've done a lot of my pages. We're going to cut these in half so that we can create 2 matching bases with welding. You'll notice that this paper pack is unique in that every sheet is completely different, the front and back, so there are 24 different sides. So I totally recommend that you get yourself 2 of these packs if you like to have matching papers. And these packs are so pretty, so you're going to want them. So cutting guide 2 is pretty simple. We're going to cut 6 inches. Awesome. Cutting guide 3, we're going to do the same thing. And none of this paper is pretty directional except for the other side if you're doing the stripes. I'm not using that side though. Okay, again, we cut at 6 inches. Wonderful. We're going to put these aside. If you wanted to label them, you've got pieces G and H and I and J. Now we're going to take our last piece of paper for cutting guide number 4. And again, this is going to be another simple cut. Really no direction on this, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to cut this at 2 3/4 inches. So we're 1 grid line shy of 3 inches here. 2 3/4, let's do that again. 2 3/4, okay. These pieces are K and L. Then I'm going to cut this. I'm using the reverse side for this, for the photo mats. We're going to set it on its side, and you notice it's now 6.5 inches long this way. We're going to cut 2 photo mats for full 4x6 photos. So I'm going to measure this over here at 4.5 inches. And it fits right in that little pocket right there. That little bold line there. And we're going to do that again. All right, and these are M and N. Those are our photo mats. Okay, this is a leftover piece. You can keep it if you want. Now, there's only one more thing that we need to cut. We need some scrap paper. So I know you have scrap paper handy. It can be one of the papers that you get out of your paper pack that has all the samples on it, or it could just be some extra cardstock or designer paper that you didn't use that you have a scrap. So all you need to cut, and this is for the welding. If you are doing these pages directly on to a traditional scrapbook page, you can skip this welding part and these scraps. But if you like to save your project recipes for later, not sure where you're going to put them, or if you use pocket pages, you're going to want to do this. So let's just cut off 2 1-inch strips. So you have 2 1x12s. They don't have to match. You're not going to see them, but I have this, cool gray paper. I think it's cool gray. It could be beige. They look a lot alike. So now what we're going to do is the welding part. I'm going to move my trimmer out of the way because we are done with it now. Okay, so what we're going to do, this is how our papers are going to look. And you can do it any way you like, but I chose to do it with the lighter color on the inside of the 2-page spread and the darker color on the outside. That's just my personal preference. That's how I designed this one. Be, free to mix it up if you want to. We're going to flip these over. Grab them at the top, flip them upside down, grab them at the top, flip them upside down. And you're going to push them together closely. Now, here's a super easy way to weld. All you got to do is just take your strip. I'm going to put tape runner, generous amount of actual tape runner, the real one, not the repositionable, and put it all the way down. And holding these together, I'm going to do it both ways here. You're going to just apply this like you're applying tape. It was important to put the tape in the center because now look at that. It's perfect. We have this beautiful, perfect sheet. How wonderful. Another way to do this, that's also easy. you can put your papers together this way, just like we did, keeping them straight, and then apply the tape runner directly onto it. That, you know, pretty easy. I have a hard time describing that in the instructions without showing it. And then you can apply your strip that just covers that up. This cardstock's a little bit longer than these papers. I'm just going to snip that off. There we go. So perfect, you can't even feel any seam there. So we've got these flipped over, and I'm really happy how they turned out. Next, we're going to apply pieces K and L to our edges. And you want to, I'm going to use Repositionable now in case I make a mistake, but you want to have these all the way to your edge over here. I love designs when you can use a lot of the different patterns and colors, and they'll still complement your photos. All the way to the edge. I'm careful not to let any of that purple show over here. Okay, and now the fun part of getting to apply everything else. So let's grab all our pieces here. Now, I always encourage you to, once you've got the things in place that you know where they go, then all these that can kind of move around a little bit, go ahead and just put them on the page without using tape runner. So these go up here, and these go down here. And not all the way at the bottom. I give a little bit of a margin there. You can do however you like, though. There's some room to change it up here if you want. These orange pieces, C and D, as you see, go down here in the corners with about a 1/2 inch border around them. And then these mats for the large photos, which are M and N, you want to align those horizontally with the mats that you just placed down. And then making sure everything is lined up going across. Then we're going to line up these orange mats up here, and these were E and F. There we go. So you'll notice you have about a 1/2 inch border here, but about a full inch over here. That's okay. The main thing is to give you an even amount of space going across. If you try to center these are going to be too squished that way. I'm going to go ahead and attach these, and we'll add some embellishments and photos. The one thing I want to let you know is you want to use either a silicone mat or some parchment or wax paper to apply your tape runner to these beautiful borders, obviously, because you can't put regular tape runner on that or it would show through and make a terrible mess. You'd be pretty unhappy about that. And sometimes it's really easy if you want to, if you can't eyeball it really well, to flip these papers like this so you can kind of make sure those are even with each other all the way across there. These down here at the bottom are much easier. I really like this Elegant Diamond Border Maker cartridge. Oh, we're out of tape runner. Let me grab another one. Hopefully you use the Creative Memories tape runner. If you don't, oh my gosh, you're missing out, because look how easy it is to swap this out. Boom. Love it. All right, now I'll continue on by attaching all of these where I have them carefully placed. I do eyeball it a bit. I don't get the ruler out to make sure it's all perfect, because I think it still looks good, but you are welcome to do that, of course. I hope this is a super easy and fast project recipe for you. I definitely love fast pages, because then you can get more done. And as we're putting these down, you'll notice they cross over all these beautiful long borders there. And this is a very easy one to put together, because this is lined up here and this is lined up here. So that's easy to make sure everything's in its place there. All right, I have everything attached. Now I'm going to trim some photos, add those. Here's what we need. We need 6 photos, 2 photos that are 4x4, 2 photos that are 3.5 by 5.5, so you'll have to trim those a bit, and then 2 full-size 6x4 photos. So I'll add mine and be right back. I've got my beautiful photos attached now, and now I'm going to pick out some embellishments and add them with some foam squares. And don't forget the journaling. All done with journaling and embellishments. The embellishment pack for Vintage Chic includes all journaling boxes or title boxes like this. I've popped these 2 up for the title and the date with foam squares, and my journaling's complete. So these pages are done. I hope you have a super fun and easy time completing these. Thanks so much for watching.